Y'all had a, I wish she was here because she thought that was you, and she's not here at the moment, but I would love her to be in on this. Here she is. She's walking in. You could come sit on the bench and talk with me. This is the Randall we thought it was. Okay. Anyway, Shawn is in the studio, Randall. She's not going to come on camera, I don't think, but
Well,
she's here.
tell her hi for me. I've loved everything y'all have done together.
Thank you. She's right here. If you think of something, you can pass it to me and I'll ask him. Neat. So yeah, I'm really interested to hear about your career and the things you've done. If you wouldn't mind, just I know you're probably a humble guy, but I think it's really cool what you've done.
Well, in the briefest that I can make it, I grew up in the South. I was born in West Tennessee, and when I was 11, we moved to Virginia, and then I went to school in North Carolina at Duke. So I'm sort of an all over Southerner. I go to Jackson, Mississippi every year for the charity event my friend Jill Connor Brown does there. She's a Southern writer, and after I went to seminary actually at Duke, and I was a year into it. But I was a singer songwriter, and
Oh,
that was really my ambition. And I was torn because I wanted to live my life consistent with my faith,
yeah.
but I felt that my I was really drawn to music, and I talked with my friends who were in the seminary with me, and I told them I felt that I was betraying them to leave. And one of them said, "If you don't go, we're going to kick your butt because you've got something we don't have, and you should be using it."
Yeah.
And I met Chris Christopherson, who's a great,
Oh my goodness. Incredible.
and he urged me to go to Nashville, and I was in Nashville for 3 years, and it really wasn't happening for me in music. I was spending all day every day. I had a picture of Beethoven. I bet you've seen it, Shawn. It's like on a postcard, and he's got a notepad, and he's kind of
Oh, sure.
frowning
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the wood.
I've,
And I wanted to be that guy. I wanted
uh-huh.
to I wanted to dedicate myself that much, and I locked myself away in an apartment and wrote and practiced all day long, and got worse and worse emotionally, and finally just packed everything I had and moved to California. And I met a woman and fell in love. I eventually married her, and she had a screenplay written by her father on the coffee table. And I read it and thought, this is natural for me. The writing of the songs trained me to write screenplays because I wrote dialogue in the way a songwriter writes music. That a songwriter has to have an economy and an exactness and a lyricism in the words, and that seemed to stand out in Hollywood. My first movie was Braveheart,
Oh, wow.
and I had success with that, and I wrote and directed Man in the Iron Mask, and with Leonardo DiCaprio, I wrote Pearl Harbor. I wrote and directed We Were Soldiers, directed Secretariat,
Oh my
and,
goodness.
and I directed Heaven is for Real. And I'm still writing, but I had a cataclysmic event which brought me to you, Shawn.
Okay.
I About 12 years ago now, I had a spot on my hand, and two different doctors looked at it and said, "Oh, it's nothing." One thought it was a blister, and one thought it was a spider bite. But it turned out to be something called MRSA, which is a staph infection that antibiotics don't work well against. And it was eating through my hand. And I ended up at the Mayo Clinic, and they were cutting away bits of my hand. They were trying to cut away the infected parts because they couldn't stop the infection. And they let me know they were going to amputate my right hand. And they were going to cut off my hand to save my arm, and cut off my arm to save my life.
Ah,
And they weren't sure they could. This one doctor, and really a whole team, figured out a way to save my hand. And I went into the surgery thinking I'd wake up with, they'd be calling me Lefty. And
yeah.
when I came out of surgery, I still had both hands. and I would need 11 more surgeries. But I decided that instead of just doing hand exercises, I was going to celebrate having hands.
Praise
And
Jesus.
yes, exactly right. And in music, like my sister is a fabulous pianist. She's the best sight reader I ever saw. You read Beethoven like it's the newspaper, but she
I've
says,
seen those people.
yeah, oh, and you just want to strangle her
I
sometimes.
know.
But
Right.
the funny part is that she would say, and of course that gives her the ability to just play anything, but she'd say the way it is the first time through is the way it's going to be the 10th time through because I'm just reading it. But the problem with me was my ear. If I was
Okay.
playing something and I came to the wrong note, I'd want to stop and correct it. And I had this goal, this strategy that to learn to play piano, I needed to have something to play that was worth playing, something that I loved and couldn't wait to get to the piano to play.
Hmm.
And I was in my car and I heard Bob Seger's song Against the Wind with his wonderful piano. And so I went online, how to play Against the Wind on piano.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, up you come. And in the first riff, and I was like, whoa, that's how to play that song. And so I subscribed for, I think I did the 3 month thing. And I was about 3 weeks into it and went, this is exactly what I've always wanted. And I signed up for the whole lifetime membership.
Hmm.
And and since then I've learned to play. I've always made had a song that was a little bit aspirational, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
answer.
Challenge.
Uh, all right, Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Hmm.
And I was just little pieces at the time and I found, okay, they're not all that hard. If you just, that one little piece is not so hard. If I can do that one little piece, then I can do the next little piece.
Right.
And, and then I also had an issue with the just dexterity of my hand. So
Okay.
I started a routine that every morning for about 15 to 30 minutes, I do, I play scales in every key, major and minor. I do arpeggios in every key, major
Yeah.
and minor, broken chords and octaves.
Yeah.
And and I practice and I do that just to get, because when I watch you, your hands are so fluid and relaxed. And I have to fight the kind of, I'll just
Yeah.
but that's been my journey. Now I'm performing during COVID. I wrote a
Oh,
show called
yes.
Living the Braveheart Life. And and I use clips from my movies and songs that I wrote for those movies or about those movies. And I've been playing a lot of that on stage. I've been actually able to, and then I started a band and I play
Oh, wow.
keyboards in the band. And because a friend of mine said, if you want to do it, have the guts to get out there and either rise or fall. But so I've got so much to thank you for, but I hope that kind of describes it. It it has given me a way to find someone who clearly loves music, like you and Shawna. Like there's this love, the spirit of it comes through first,
Yeah.
and that I think informs it's fun to learn this way. Um, and and I think that's something you give everybody. So I really want to thank you.
You're very welcome. I feel like I just want to keep hearing you talk. But something that sticks out to me is that you said you decided to celebrate instead of going the other way with it. And that's a life lesson, in anything. And I admire you. Yeah, there's this idea. Tim Hawkins said this. I don't know if you heard of Tim Hawkins. He's a Christian comedian, but he said, why is the Christian version have to be the lesser version? The Christian version should be the best version of
Yes,
anything,
yes, yes, yes.
and to actually bring that into our occupations and let that fuel us instead of saying, okay, I'm going to be this, then I'll come over here and be a Christian in my personal life, but making it all your whole life, a testimony to Jesus and what He's done for us. So that's kind of what my I kind of made a decision early on in that too. I mean, I don't give a sermon every lesson, but I'll mention from time to time, and I'm very thankful. This is, you said you wanted to strangle your sister when she could just sight read anything. I've been next to those people because I'm not as good a sight reader as I should be for my playing level, and I never will be, and that's okay. But God gave me this gift from when I was just a little kid. Whatever I hear, I automatically just know what the notes are, whatever it is. I don't have to figure it out. Don't have to go, play a little bit. I just know somehow. I don't know what the process is, but and that gift, that one gift, is what allows me to do, what I do for you guys, and I'm just thrilled to be able to use it for God and to His glory. And I fully believe that's why that was given to me. I remember being a little kid, just like 5 years old, and just a song I wanted to learn on a record, and I didn't play. I have never had any lessons, but I already knew what the notes were because I'd heard my mom play, and I already, though I didn't know the names of the notes, I knew them in my head, and I play. Oh yeah, that's this guy. That's just every note's like a color or a feeling or something, and it was familiar. And I would go to the record player, drop the needle, play a little bit, pick it up, then I'd walk back in the living room and then write down what I heard. Then I'd go back and do the same thing for the whole song. I've spent hours doing that. I'm 5 years old. But little did I know that was kind of prophetic of what I'd be doing, later on in life. And it's just been a joy to meet everybody. And we were actually hoping, Shawna and I, that we would get to do a testimonial with you. And she had told me about the emailing you'd had with her, and I'd always hoped I'd get to meet you. And lo and behold, just out of the blue, and maybe it's not out of the blue, maybe the Lord prompted that. But it's so neat to meet. I would love to meet you in person someday, Randall. I don't know if that could happen, but man, if you're ever in Waco, we're known for many things, but if you're ever around visiting, it's a tourist spot now. Would love to get a cup of coffee with you, have it into our home, play some music or something, or if you'd, well, yeah, write some songs together. That's right. Yeah, you're a songwriter too. Wow, so creative. So, have you written anything that we might have heard? Is it country music?
The style that well, when I was in Nashville, I was with some great country writers. Bobby Braddock was one who was in the company I worked with, and Bobby wrote Divorce for Tammy Wynette. He wrote He
Oh,
Stopped Loving Her Today. And
oh,
I mean,
wow. Oh my goodness.
they were geniuses, and I wasn't writing in that vein. It wasn't really where I came up. I was kind of the Neil Diamond era, and I loved that kind of music. I loved Cat
Yeah.
Stevens. Then I
Oh,
ended up Elton John, all of those things. But the biggest song that I've had is called Mansions of the Lord, and it was the hymn there's a little story about it at the end of making We Were Soldiers. My
uh-huh.
editor said to me, we need a requiem hymn for the end of the movie. And the Navy, US Navy, has one called Eternal Father Strong to Save. It goes back hundreds of years.
I've recognized that one.
But the Army didn't have a funeral hymn. And my composer, his name is Nick Glennie Smith, he used to play with Pink Floyd, so he's no slouch. Nick had written a beautiful score, and I took a little piece of it and a legal pad and wrote 3 verses, and we recorded it at Abbey Road Studios when we recorded the rest. In fact, like right over your right shoulder there, are the Beatles, and Paul McCartney has that same gift you have. Like he just hears it and he knows what the
Yeah.
notes are, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't read music,
No,
none of them, right? And
I don't think they
so
did. No.
no, and
Incredible.
um, I wrote this hymn called Mansions of the Lord, and we recorded it at Abbey Road and put it in the movie. And they used it for they carried Ronald Reagan's body from the National Cathedral with the Marine Corps chorus singing Mansions of the Lord. And
Wow.
it became the funeral hymn that the U.S. Army uses in almost all of its funerals. And that's been the biggest song that I've had. I've had some others in movies, and my current passion with the band that I have now is kind of like ELO, their vision of marry a pop feel with a classical drive to it, turn classical music into having a rock and roll
Hmm.
feeling. And I've experimented with a cellist and a violin player in the band, uh, and trying to make the piano do that. The piano that I bought to help inspire me, I bought a Bosendorfer.
Oh yeah.
It's yeah, because and my feeling was if I do this, I cannot quit. If I put this much money into an investment, I have to keep going. So that's
Wow.
been the style, which was another reason I found it so fascinating when you and Shawna went, all right, we're gonna like climb Mount Everest here. Let's write a song, um, the turn the page. And it was a really
Yeah.
great song. And I also thought y'all performed it really well.
Thank
So
you.
yeah.
We'd like to do a better, that was in a different studio. Not everything was perfect as we wanted it. My voice wasn't good that day. We'd like to re-record it, but just your compliment of that song. Now that I know all that you've done, it's just huge. I'm just so honored. I'm just speechless here. So, but I would like to hear, if a lot of people are going to watch this, it's "Turn the Table" is the song, and Shawna and I decided to write a song in the style of Elton John. So we just loaded up on Elton John, read everything we could about him. I listened to all the music I could constantly, just had it going in my head. And then, then we just go to the piano and she would write the lyrics. And then because we wanted to do it just like Bernie Taupin did, where he would write the lyrics and just give Elton and he would do the rest. So we wanted to do that process and see what we came up with. And that's what we came up with. And I would like to hear, if you remember, just your thoughts on the song, even if you have some criticism. I'd love to hear all of that. But it's our, you know, oh,
Well, I tell you, it was really funny. I wouldn't have changed anything, and I'm really critical. I mean, it's one of my friend that I mentioned, Jill Connor Brown. Um, she tells a story to the people that follow her about that she had a friend who was dying of cancer, and she said a prayer and said, "If you let my friend live, I want to sacrifice something, and I'll give up my favorite word, which was the F word." And
oh,
she
okay.
said, "I'll never say it again
Not a
if my
bad thing.
friend lives." And her friend lived, and she kept her promise. And and then she said she had another friend, and she promised God she'd give up her favorite activity, which was judging other people. And but her friend died, so gets to keep judging other
Oh,
people.
gets to keep that. All right.
And of course, that's she's humorous. But
Yeah.
the thing to me is that I tend to really listen to other music with a highly critical, like, oh no, I wouldn't have done that. And
Uh-huh.
that was one of the reasons I was so impressed with that song. I thought the lyrics really flowed, and it did seem like an album cut from Elton John, and the way you bounced with the rhythm, which is
Yeah.
something I think one of the things that got me, and I've tried piano lessons in my life before, and it's always, the sweet lady down the street who's patient
Right.
with all the kids, and she wants you
Sure.
to learn these, the same thing. And I was like, I hate this music. I just like I don't. But you have a love for the music, so when you're playing it, and it's not even like talked about. It's like when you play Elton John, it has that bite,
Yeah.
has bounce, and that was in the song, and the lyrics were to me exactly in alignment with the kind of thing that he would say in the whole, like, that spin the table, turn the
Yeah.
page.
Right.
No, I'm getting some of the words wrong, but I just thought it was terrific, and I thought it's kind of the way great music gets created. It's not like in a vacuum. um, a friend of mine plays with Paul McCartney in his band. And so I love hearing those stories. Like, how does Paul approach? And my friend, he's like, well, he doesn't tell Paul stories out of school. He doesn't, tell inside things. But but he's an artist himself, and we love to talk about the nature of it. And he says, Paul, if he sits down at the piano to write, he'll write 5 songs before he stands up. And he really believes in getting on with it.
Yeah.
But if it came out of his head, he honors it by at least making a recording, not necessarily a full demo or certainly not a master. But if this came and I thought about that, struck me as so powerful because, as I understand it, yesterday was originally I Believe in Scrambled Eggs. That was I Believe in Scrambled. And you go, that became yesterday. So he didn't he was playful and he was brave, but he got to it. He didn't back off out of fear or any of those things. John Fogerty, Creedence Clearwater, I saw an interview where he said, give the song as much time as it needs, but keep at it. So if you want to hear any of my stuff, if you just Google or just Randall Wallace YouTube, I've got some songs up.
We will.
An example. I wrote one song recently. I was thinking with the pandemic, and I know as Christians, you certainly will understand this, that it's almost like it's not faith against hate, or love against hate. It's love against fear. And
yes, that's good. So, say that again.
Yeah. Well, that it's not really love versus hate. It's faith, or it's love versus fear.
Yeah.
And I really see that in my own life when I'm afraid. I think that's the moment where you have to realize there is a God. It's not me, and I've got to trust God's going to show up. I mean, when I look at your whole web piano teacher and how it was years ago when I started, and it was just honest and simple and a whiteboard that you had written on, and then it evolved into all of these songs that you can go in and look at and be a part of and learn. I thought, okay, I want to affirm faith instead of fear. And I wrote a song called Praise Ye the Lord at the end, and I recorded it. I went to Jackson, Mississippi, and visited the largest predominantly Black Methodist church in Mississippi, which is saying something. Yeah. Anderson United Methodist Church. And they had invited me to their church, and they invited me to sing. And I wanted to sing Precious Lord, Take My Hand, which, by the way, I learned off of your website. Okay. but I wasn't at the piano. I was just up in front. But I was afraid that because of a California voice in my head said, okay, I'm an old white guy. Will somebody say I'm appropriating Martin Luther King's favorite song? And I thought, that's a terrible thought to think coming to church. Sure. And I said to him, I'd like to sing Precious Lord, Take My Hand. And I started to sing, and I had tears running down my face. And I turned around and looked, and the whole choir was doing the same. They were singing their hearts out, weeping, and they met me with nothing but love. Yeah. And so I recorded them, and I used them in my performance. I can always have them on the screen behind me. But that to me is the spirit behind what you do. And I know it's why I've been with you so many years, and every day I have you on my screen as I'm working through one more little piece of some hard. I mean, Moonlight Sonata, third movement's listed as expert. Yes. And there's no way I'm expert, but I'm not afraid. I made a vow. I made a promise to God when I went to Nashville the first time. And I said, look, I don't know if I've got the talent to do what I aspire to do, if you'll give me the opportunity, but I'll make you a promise. 2 things will never hold me back: a lack of effort and a fear of failure. Those 2 things will not stop me. Excellent. And that's something that I found with y'all. And so, like I say, I'm just really grateful. Wanting to talk, when I saw you say, if you want to talk and you're a member of the community, I'm going to
Love it.
celebrate and say, say thank you because I think the work you do is way bigger than you know. And I
Thank you. You're
know
very
it's
welcome.
big, but it's bigger than you know.
Oh, wonderful. And Shauna and I have had this, we've just felt this calling that the Lord's going to do something with it big. Not that I'm going to, excel in piano lessons across the world, but that it'll allow us to do some sort of ministry of some kind. So we've been really praying for that. And we've had our own share of fear. I think it's something you don't, just put away once. You have to do it every day. And I always go, if for people watching this, if you struggle with fear too, I always go to that scripture. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And I just say it over and over again. That's my rock when I start to get afraid, and I do just like anybody else. But I just love hearing you talk and say these things because I've always hoped that the love of Christ would come through in the lessons somehow. I mention him every once in a while, but I don't get preachy. But I always hope that comes through, and it's just wonderful to hear you say that it does. And Shauna's behind here. She's just crying and smiling and laughing. So I hope we both get to talk to you at the same time at some other point. Oh man, I would love to meet you in person so much, Randall. I don't know if that can ever happen. Well, it will one day. Will
It
one
will
day.
one day. I feel sure it
Yeah.
will.
So yeah, and I have to comment on the. I don't even want to get to these questions. I'll have to in a minute, but you mentioned the black choir. My mom took me to a black gospel church in Corsicana, Texas, for like a couple of years. We'd drive; it was an hour away. That's where I learned blues. I mean, I couldn't. I heard it for the first. The pastor would, yes, the Lord Jesus. And then the organ would, come in and they would have the music. I mean, some of the best music. You just go to these little churches and they know how to worship. They know how to praise God. And they know how to do it with music. And they had, everyone's just singing and praising. And so, and we were the only white faces in there. And they just welcomed us like we were, we were one of them. And
Yeah.
it was just, that's where I learned blues and gospel. That's where I kind of got that in my soul. So I have to credit that. And what else? There was something else you mentioned, but I can't think of it. But I want to get to these questions my videographer wants me to ask. We're actually trying to work on the business side of our stuff after all these years, and I've never done that. And they tell me, they look at it and go, "How have you done this well with not working at all at the the business whatsoever?" And I don't know, the Lord, I guess. But if you wouldn't mind answering these, it might feel like you're a little repetitive, but anyway, let's go for it. What is your name and where are you from?
I'm Randall Wallace, and I'm from Los Angeles, California.
Excellent. And how did you originally hear about my lessons?
I Googled how to play Against the Wind by Bob Seger, and the first lesson came up, and I tried it, and it worked for me. I found myself playing a song that I love, and thought I got to learn more, and so I signed up for a, I think a 3 month subscription, and I wasn't even halfway through it when I decided, no, I'm going to sign up for the lifetime membership because I know I'm going to want to do this for the rest of my life.
Excellent. And what do you like most about learning from my method?
It works for me to, what I love most about learning from your method is that it's clear and and it works. It's the way I learn things by ear more than reading music. I know how to read music. I can painfully translate it, but something that I found was that when I learned to play the song, then to go look at the sheet music, it actually helps me learning how to decipher what is on the page. I'll see a complex chord and I go, oh, that's what that, and the next time I see it, I recognize it. But um, I love this method because I can pop into a song, or if say my band wants to play a song like say Tiny Dancer,
Yeah.
here's how to do it, and I can learn it in the most really efficient possible way.
Excellent. Thank you. What makes my method different from other online piano lessons?
For one thing, I can move at my own pace when I'm working with your method. Um, the there's an exuberance about how you go about all of it. This the energy never flags. I never get a sense that you're just punching through it to try to get internet content so
Yeah.
you can make more money. It's like, I love this first. If you love this, then here's a way to do it. I get drawn into the spirit of it, and I think that is a unique aspect. And then I think uh, it moves at the right pace. With obviously you can start and stop, but the way you describe things is um, is effective and clear. It's We're learning the actual notes of these great pieces, not a representation, not a vague kind of copy, but these are the notes. And then, but there's a feeling to it that you also give in playing it during the lesson. So um, your style of it works for me. I think obviously it works for everybody.
Thank you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with my lessons?
Maybe 14, something like that.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give myself a 9 point something because there's always room for improvement. Still trying to get better.
Good
Would you
man.
recommend a friend or family member to my website? And if so, why?
I recommend your website all the time to everybody I meet who
Thank you.
goes, how do you, how'd you learn to play that? And, or when they know that how recently I started and then they hear me play something elaborate, I've had friends go, what, where did this come from? And I go, well, you need to check out webpianoteacher.com. That's where I learn. I do it all the time.
Thank you. Well, Randall, is there anything I can do for you? Any questions you've wanted to ask me, or um, I, I would love for you all that you've done. It's just incredible how God has used you in your life. Um, I mean, well, I'm sure you're going to hear that. Well done, my good and faithful servant, which are the most wonderful words to ever hear. But what advice would you give to Shawna and I? Because we're trying to start working on the business end and doing the things we need to do to get better at what we do. What suggestions would you give us?
I think if I were going to suggest anything, it's stay yourselves. The and I only say that it's probably because I'm reflecting a need that I know in myself, rather than something that I don't see a danger of you and Shauna becoming other people other than you are. You're gonna be who you are, and that's what's working for
Hmm.
everybody. I just know that in my own life, the biggest turning points have come when I've actually gotten on my knees and prayed.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't. The outcome of this is not in my hands, but what I pray to do is to be standing up and fighting for what I believe, that all my work is reflective of what I truly believe, not what I'm not worshiping Hollywood or the audience or the number of subscribers or clicks. It's like by by doing those things, you trust in the Lord and all these things will be added to you. I
Exactly.
believe that. Um, what I would like to see more of,
Okay.
um, is I really enjoyed the, when you wrote a song together and showed, okay,
Yeah.
we're, this is kind of out of the comfort zone in a way, like, okay, we know that if I show you how to play song on the piano you want to play, then I know how to do that and how that works. But we're going to actually get out there and say, we wrote this, we performed this. I saw a thing where there was a, a young man, maybe he was 14 or something, and he came down and he spent a day or something with y'all and learned you
Yeah.
went and performed
Right.
together. I thought,
Yes.
God,
Yes.
I love that. And when you guys are getting out and playing together, I have a new friend, Keith Getty, who
Uh-huh.
is one of the writers of In Christ Alone,
Okay.
and I met
Oh,
Keith,
wow.
his wife Kristen, in Nashville, and they reminded me of you two, that they work together, they sing together, they perform together, and so I'm not saying that you ought to do more for you, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how
Yeah.
your end of the business really works, but I can tell you that I really enjoy it, when y'all do, and it's a delight to me to see. Um, and I for your website, I've really loved when I've been like when I got to so third movement of Moonlight Sonata is something like 17 or 18
Yeah,
lessons. And
that's
there
right.
was a spot about 11 lessons in when you picked it up again years later. Like you had done half of
Right.
it or most of it. Then you came, and I thought, oh, thank goodness he had done this, because if I'd gotten here and he stopped,
You'd be mad.
I would have been, oh man, I was because I want to learn
Yeah.
the rest.
Yes.
But I love it when you finish out lessons like that. I think the Beethoven's Fifth it goes part of the way, and I don't know if it goes all the way yet or not. But I love those. I love to sit down at the piano and make people think I'm better than I am. So
We all do.
yeah, yeah. So those ways of throwing in the flourishes, and you do that. You'll say, look, like here's the country third.
Yeah.
Um, Here are these pieces that you can use. There was a recent lesson on um, saying that these guys like Leon Russell, or when
Yeah.
they're doing this, they're it feels like they're making it up on the spot, but they're stringing together pieces that they've learned.
Exactly.
And I love that kind of additional content. Maybe for me, one of the big things, my daily scales and arpeggios and all like that. I think that has really been helpful to me, almost like it's brushing my teeth, right? If my fingers don't work well, then I can't play well.
Yeah.
So I'm looking, and that's something I hope to get to Waco, and I've been doing a tour of my Living the Braveheart Life show, and I go
Uh-huh.
to churches, I go to different places, and it's the 30th anniversary of Braveheart next May,
Oh, wow.
and I'm planning a national tour and actually international, because we'll be going to Scotland for that. But to try to get around and celebrate Braveheart and be in front of live audiences. So I hope in that I'm going to get a chance to maybe come near y'all. And if I'm anywhere near y'all, I'm going to drive up
Please. Yes,
and
please do that. Well, Randall, you have ministered to me today. I have to say, usually I'm, trying to help people, encourage them, and I've been ministered to today. So I want to thank you for that. And is there anything I can pray for you? We have a prayer list we go through every morning. We people by name, and we bring it before the Lord. Is there anything we can pray for you about?
well, I tell you, I'm touched that you would ask, and I think my main prayer now is gratitude. I love that Jesus said, "I came that you could have life and have it more abundantly,"
Hmm.
I want you to know that if we can thank God for each other, and
Okay.
I think that's one of the biggest things that Christians need to do is be grateful for each other, and I'm sure
Amen.
grateful for y'all, and I appreciate your gratitude for you and yours. Celebrate your family. That'd be the best thing you could do for me.
Amen. Well, we will do that. Randall, thank you so much. Zoom.